Hi guys, good morning. My computer is fixed. Thank God for that. So I was seeing, I don't know how to explain it, the slide from yesterday, and I really didn't like the dynamic of the recording of the things. I didn't think it was dynamic, and I didn't think it was very didactical. So I'm going to uh, record this video about passive voice, okay? We're all trying these different formats. I don't know I don't know about you, but I didn't really liked the other one with the, what's the name, with the thing, with the recording of this thing. It was not cool. So let's do it together here. It's the same material. I only included the pictures of the exercises so that we can correct it. You can correct it, okay? Together. If when we finish you still have some doubts, just let me know and we will clear them, okay? So let me find here what I okay. So we are reviewing passive voice. I know it's nobody's favorite, but it's not as difficult as it is believed to be. I think the problem most people have with passive voice is that sometimes it is. Maga, maga, maga. Well, guys, hi, as I promised. In general, active voice is used when you are. Shh, be quiet. Okay, I think the problem most people have with passive voice is because it requires the knowledge of many different verb forms. The same happens with reported speech, that is discurso indireto. You have to know and to understand many verb tenses to know how to work with reported speech. You have to know to master many verb tenses to know how to work with passive voice, okay? So here, there is this brief explanation of what is passive voice and how it works. Uh, in the active voice, the subject of the sentence is the verb agent, which means that the subject performs the action. So, someone broke the vase. I don't know who, but someone is the person who broke the vase, and someone is the subject of my sentence. When I have passive voice, the subject of the sentence is suffering the action. So the vase was broken. This is very common and it's used a lot when you don't know the person who performed the action. And like I said in the recording, in Portuguese, we have a lot of sentence without the subject or with a code subject, o sujeito oculto ou sujeito inexistente. These kind of sentences that are very common in Portuguese, they cannot exist in English. In English, every sentence must have a subject. Okay, the only exception is imperative. So open the door, take the book. So this sentence don't have subjects, but other than imperative, every sentence must have a subject. And many times when we are translating stuff from Portuguese to English, we find these sentences that don't have a subject. And in that case, we are forced to use passive voice. Be careful with passive voice because passive voice tends to make the text a little bit more formal. And sometimes if you use it in excess, it becomes kind of difficult to understand. But when do we use passive voice? Passive voice is very common on police reports. I don't know who is the criminal, who is the crook. I don't know who is the perpetrator of the action. So I use passive voice. So my car was stolen. The bank was robbed. I don't know who is the criminal, so I use passive voice. If I knew who did it, I may say the name, but I don't know, so I just use passive voice, okay? Scientific contexts also sometimes require passive voice. But we have to be careful here because in scientific articles is a place where the excessive use of passive voice is considered especially problematic. Why? Because scientific articles are meant to be very straight to the point. You have to tell what happened in the most objective and clear way possible. And passive voice is not very objective, it's not very clear sometimes. And like I said before, when you overuse it, when you use it too much, it tends to become, to make the test a little bit, too much information, confused. So you must avoid it in some situations. When you want to emphasize, put the focus on who suffered the action or in the action itself, and not in the person who make or who performed the action, it's also common to use passive voice. So the president was sworn in the cold January morning. So he was sworn by whom? It doesn't matter. Okay, so we use passive voice for that as well. There are some sentences in English that it's weird, but they only exist in the passive form. For example, eu nasci em São José dos Campos. I cannot say that in any other way that is not I was born in São José dos Campos. And that is passive voice. It is a little bit confusing, but it happens because English has this kind of little tricks, okay? So let's see how is the structure of passive voice, how is it formed? So forming passive voice, you will always have verb to be, always, okay? And even though every student has seen verb to be all over the school life, many still have problems exactly with this. So I put here this little chart with a lot of examples of verb to be in various tenses. Let's take a look here. As weird as it sounds, many still have problems with this. Present simple. Teacher, what's the present simple, the simple present of verb to be? Is this thing, guys, you have been studying all your life. So am, is, or are, and the verb in the passive, in the past participle. Why do I only change verb to be? I only change verb to be because verb to be marks the time of the action. When I use passive voice, the main verb that is this, it is always in the past participle, always. So if the main verb is always in the past participle, how do I know when the action happened? How do I know the time of the action? Well, I know the time of the action because of the verb to be. Terrible. One mistake that is very common, happens a lot in passive voice, is with these progressive forms, with going to, because the students think, oh my God, I already put here. If I already put here am, is, or are, verb to be is already here. Kind of. This is kind of auxiliary, and verb to be in the present progressive, in the present continuous is Am, is, or are. Being. You put ing in the be. Here, was, were, being, and the verb in the past participle. Will be. Am going to be, and the verb. So guys, remember, you must have the verb to be in the tense required by the sentence. So if you're talking about the future, you have to have verb to be in the future. If you're talking about the past, verb to be in the past. If you're talking about something that is happening now, verb to be in the present progressive, in the present continuous. Okay? This is a matter of practice. You can find online many lists where you can do a lot of passive voice. You can try it, okay? You can do it, and if you want, send me and I will correct them. But practice is key here. So if you want to improve your passive voice, you just have to use it a lot, okay? What have I done here? My God. Where was I? Okay, I was here. So now, going on, I have more examples here, see? And let's correct the first exercise on page 131, yes, yes. Change the following sentences into passive voice. So everything you have here is, what's the name of this? Is active voice, and you have to transform it into passive. Well, when I have to do this, first thing I have to find is, what is the object? Because the object of the active voice is going to be the subject in passive voice. So the earthquake destroyed many houses in Los Angeles. This is going to be my subject. So many houses in Los Angeles. Now, what is the tense? What is the time? When did the action happen? Well, the action happened in the past. So I'm going to use verb to be in the past. Here I have past. Here I have past. Teacher, why did I use were? Because many houses is in the plural form. So houses were. If it was singular, my house was. Singular, my house, singular, was, okay? And then the main verb of the sentence, that is destroyed, will be in the passive, in the past participle, okay? This is not super complicated. With practice, you will be able to do it super well. One thing I want to call your attention to is, I didn't underline the 3, but 3, 4, 5, and 6. See, in numbers 1 and 2, I put the subject, the earthquake, for example. The earthquake. I put it here with by, see, by the earthquake. This is what happens when you want to use passive voice, you need to use passive voice, but you want to say who performed the action. Who performed the action in the passive form is here with by. So the earthquake destroyed many houses in Los Angeles. Many houses in Los Angeles were destroyed by the earthquake. The performer of the action always in the followed with by. Here, water covers most of the Earth's surface. So water is this subject here. In the passive voice, it will be in the end of the sentence and followed by by. My hair is so, okay, cool, nice. Here on 3, 4, 5, and 6, I ate the 6, sorry, I will put it here, okay? On 4, 5, and 6, we don't have that. Why? Because, guys, there is no information here. Somebody Somebody, what is the information? There is no information. So I will not put it in the passive voice. It is useless. It's not necessary, it doesn't have a point, okay? I just noticed that I didn't put the answer for 6. So let me do that now, okay? It's good because then I have the opportunity to do one of them here with you. It was not intentional, it was a mistake, but let's take advantage of it, okay? So somebody was following us. Somebody was following us. First, who is the object of this sentence? Us. It's the person who is receiving the action, so to speak. Well, I'm going to put it in the passive voice, so this is going to be my subject. Remember pronouns. Us is objective pronoun. It's to be used after the verb. Now I'm going to use it before the verb. So what do I use? I use we. We. Here the sentence is in the past continuous, past progressive. So somebody, we were being, okay? And following, I'm going to put in the past participle. We were being followed by somebody? No, because there is no information in somebody, so it's pointless to try to do that. Okay? Yes? Let me try to put this in a good place, and I will send this for you. You're going to have it, okay? So, next challenge. The next thing we're going to see here, guys, is when I have two objects. Verbs with two objects, like the salesman showed him a new computer. Some verbs, not all verbs, but some verbs, they will admit two objects. One is the indirect, the person. The other is the direct, the thing, okay? So the salesman showed. Show who? Him. Show what? A new computer. Indirect, person. Direct, a thing, mostly a thing. Well, if I have two subjects, there is the possibility of having two passive voices. To do that, guys, what you have to keep in mind is that you have to first, oh my God, sorry. You have to first find these two objects. So who are these objects? Let's do it here, okay? Here in this example, the salesman showed him a new computer. So first, let's use the indirect object. He, because before the verb, I always use subject pronouns. He was shown, the sentence here is in the simple past. So here, simple past, a new computer. You see, the objects that I didn't use stay where it was before. I don't mess with it. Another possibility is using the direct object, a new computer. So a new computer was shown to him. When we explain, I think it is more complicated than when we are actually doing it. It's not that difficult to do, but many Brazilian students do have a problem with this because it is, how can I say, it is Not easy. It's very hard to translate this situation here. This one is hard to translate because in Portuguese, when we have this kind of sentence, we always have a preposition. A mim foi mostrado um novo computador. Ao Bob foi emprestado algum dinheiro. And it's not only missing something, missing a preposition for us Brazilians, but also it is something we hardly ever use. You don't go around saying something like, a minha mãe eu emprestei dinheiro. No. You can either say, eu emprestei dinheiro para minha mãe, and that's what you do. You don't use this more elaborated, weird form. It is very common. It is not very, but fairly common in English. When you read texts, when you read articles, you are going to see this a lot, depending on the kind of text you are reading. But for us Brazilians, for us, it sounds a little bit weird. And everything that we don't usually use in our mother language, we find hard to understand in other languages, okay? But relax, it's not that difficult. You will do it. So now let's take a look at the exercise. Cool? All right, now that you have finished exercise 8. Okay. So you can see I have highlighted the two objects. The green one is the indirect, and the yellow one is the direct object, and you can always use both forms. Using this, like here, 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 and here, are the ones that for us Brazilians sound more natural. But both are correct, and both are fairly used in texts all over, okay? If you are a little bit flabbergasted, say, oh my God, this is too much, there comes the gold end, that is this princess of the passive voices. Guys, this is something we hardly ever, I don't think we have something like this in Brazil, in Portuguese, maybe in some very elaborated language, but I don't know. But it is something that happens quite a lot in English. Even if you're reading texts and articles on BBC, you are going to find that. The government was expected to take immediate measure. Trump was known for this is something they use quite a lot. And for us, sometimes it's a little bit, but it's good for you to understand. All this time, with all over the years that I had as a teacher, the easiest way my students generally grasp this is this. So that's what I'm using here, okay? You have this formula, and then you have the example. Do it. Maybe it's not super important that you learn how to use it, you learn how to write it, but it is, yes, very important that you learn how to read it. And how do you read this? First, know that when I use this kind of passive voice, it's because I'm kind of passing on some information. It's not something that is necessarily my opinion or that is necessarily something I did, but it is something that I heard, something that people in general believe, and that's what is being given. That's how the information is being given here, okay? Here are the things that you have to use to correct, okay? I also highlighted some stuff. Always pay attention to your verb to be, okay? Here, it is, like I said, all over passive voice. There is a form of passive voice where we don't use this, that is passive causative, but I didn't bring it here. I will show it for you on another video or later, okay? I hope this one was better than just having the narration and stuff. But if you have doubts, bring them to class and we will clear them. Okay? So that's it, guys. Bye bye and see you around.